In this video here, I'm going to go through the reasons as to why I decided to buy a 1 3/4 horsepower saw stop instead of a 3 horsepower table saw. So stay tuned. Welcome to Simple Shop Creations with your host Kurt Poswalt. And now on to the video. Prior to me purchasing the saw stop that I have now, I initially installed a 220 volt circuit in my makeshift shop here. Like a lot of other people, I was running an older table saw, and I wanted to upgrade. So after 20 years or so, it was time to upgrade to a new table saw and a cabinet saw at that. So I was looking at 3 horsepower table saws, and I had one reason, or I had a limit of under $3,000. So we all know that a 3 horsepower saw stop is $3,000 or more depending on the configuration. So the saw stop was out. And as you know, there are plenty of other table saw manufacturers that sell quality 3 horsepower table saws for well under the $3,000 mark. So that's one reason why I was going after the 3 horsepower. I had the 220 installed, and I was going to go and look at and purchase a 3 horsepower table saw. However, I was down at the local woodcraft store with my wife, and my wife, knowing that I was looking at table saws, on display there were a bunch of saw stops, and she was familiar with the saw stop technology, the flesh tension technology, and so she decided to bring up the bagel incident. And you might be wondering, what would a bagel have to do with what type of table saw you purchased? Well, it has a lot to do with it, and let me elaborate. I was cutting a bagel, and while I was cutting the bagel, I decided to cut my thumb, and wound up in the emergency room, and then 8 stitches later, left the emergency room. So that was probably a really, that's probably the number one reason why I dropped down to a 1 3/4 horsepower saw stop, was for the flesh tension technology. And then number 2, as stated earlier, the saw stop 3 horsepower, depending on the configuration, is over $3,000. So I wound up with a 1 3/4 horsepower saw stop table saw under my $3,000 limit, and hopefully I will never need to or never see or never hear or never cause the flesh tension technology to activate. But if somebody cuts themselves with a bagel, it just might happen sooner than later. So the 1 3/4 horsepower table saw for saw stop is now in my shop and here in front of you. So you might be saying, okay, do you have any regrets buying a 1 3/4 horsepower table saw instead of spending the few dollars more over the $3,000 and buying a 3 horsepower? The answer is no. And let me explain why I have no regrets. Coming from truly an underpowered table saw and coming to a quality 1 3/4 horsepower table saw, it's like going from a 4-cylinder car up to a V8 cylinder car. So I really have nothing to compare it to other than my old table saw, which definitely was underpowered compared to this saw. I mean, it's night and day. All right, so no regrets whatsoever. And again, if I had a chance to demo a 3 horsepower table saw, I might be able to compare the 1 3/4 with a 3 horsepower, but I can't. I only can compare with my older table saw and this one here. And as the analogy spewed out before, it's like going from 4-cylinder to 8-cylinder. And that's the best way to explain it. So another question might be asked is, you have 220 volt circuit in your shop. Are you using it? Yes, I'm using the 220 volt circuit, and I'm using it on this table saw. This table saw was converted to the 220. Now let me just explain a little more on that. When I first got the table saw, I was running it for probably a good 9 months on the 120 circuit. I had no problems whatsoever. No problems whatsoever with cutting wood. And let me explain. Let me just add something to that about no problem cutting wood. Is that when you're coming from an truly an underpowered table saw, you develop techniques on how to cut more difficult wood, harder wood, difficult wood. So you develop techniques. And in a future video, I'm going to go through one technique that I use a lot, that I used a lot, almost every time when I cut wood or more difficult wood to cut on my underpowered table saw. I'm going to demonstrate it on this particular table saw in a future video. So let's go back to the 220 to 120. The saw is now running at 220 volts. I did purchase the contactor, about 9 months after I purchased this saw. I bought the contactor, and for about 2 years now, close to 2 years, if not 2 years, I've been running at 220 volts. So that's going to bring up another question. Do you see a difference between running the table saw at 120 or at 220? And I have to honestly say, I really do not see a difference. I know a lot of people out there who demonstrate converting tools over to 220. From 120, say possibility of start up quicker. I just don't notice any difference going from a 220 to going from 120 to 220. I don't see a difference. So that might bring up another question: is, well, then why do you spend the extra money to buy the contactor? Well, it comes down to just simple, because I could, and I did, and now I'm running it. And that'll come up to another question about the 220 circuit on this particular table saw. Are you going to upgrade? No, I don't see a reason for me to upgrade. I really don't see a reason for me to upgrade. So did I waste my money going with the 220 contactor? Some people probably say yeah. Some people might say no. And again, it goes back to that I had 220. The table saw was able to convert to 220. So I did it. No big deal. Is there a difference? No, I don't really see a difference between 120 and 220 again. So let's recap. Do I have any regrets buying this table saw? No, I do not. It cuts everything that I have thrown at it so far. Do I see any difference between the 120 and the 220? No, I do not. Would you suggest somebody upgrading to the 220 if they have the ability to do that? It's solely up to you. Again, on this, from my point of view, I don't see a difference between the 120 and the 220. And honestly, I'm not going to. I don't see need. I don't see myself going or changing the motor up to the 3 horsepower. I just don't see me doing it at all. So with that was the 2 reasons that I bought the 1 3/4 saw sub. Was under budget, and the flash tension technology. So with that, have yourself a healthy and wonderful day.